There are a lot of things to consider when buying a short-term rental property or a vacation rental on Topsail Island. Stay tuned as we dig into what we think are the three most important things when evaluating a property. What flood zone is it in? Is the property in the CBRA zone or not? And if the HOA has any restrictions on vacation rentals. The first consideration we're going to talk about today is what flood zone the property is in. There are 4 flood zones on Topsail Island. Contrary to popular belief, the whole island is not in the same flood zone. So please stay tuned for the overview of how to see what flood zone the property is located in. The 4 are VE, AE, the 0.2% chance, and flood zone X. So VE, AE, and the 0.2% chance. Flood insurance is required if you're using financing to purchase the property typically. And you can see VE is the most expensive, think very expensive. AE is the second most expensive, 0.2% chance. Flood insurance is pretty low. And then if your property is located in flood zone X, no flood insurance is required, but you can still get it if you want. Okay, so the first consideration, what flood zone is your property in? In order to do a quick and easy way to find that out, go to the website listed above, flood.nc.gov. In the search bar, type in the address of the property and hit enter. It's going to pull up a map, which you can interact with and move around. And the green area is the VE flood zone. The blue area is AE. The yellow area, which you can see kind of on the border of the blue, is the 0.2% annual flood chance area. And then the kind of gray area with no overlay is flood zone X. So it's very interesting. If you look on the island, there's actually areas of Topsail Island that are not in a flood zone. So there's south of the Surf City Bridge, there's a few neighborhoods that are a little more elevated than others, and you can see that there's properties that are not in any of the flood zones that require insurance that are in flood zone X. This map is not 100% accurate, but it is a great little quick analysis. You can see most of the oceanfront properties are in the VE flood zone, which that just is what it is. You kind of got to risk it to get the biscuit with the oceanfront properties. They make a lot more in revenue, obviously, but the expenses are also higher. So as you go, the very southern end is mostly in the VE flood zone. And then I want to show you too, as you go all the way north, the canals, flood insurance is pretty expensive on the canals. And then as you get north of the North Topsail Beach Bridge, the flood zones are only AE and VE. There's none of the 0.2% chance or flood zone X. So this is a great quick method to see if a property is in a certain flood zone. And then the other method is to get an elevation certificate for the property. I'll talk more about that next. An elevation certificate is a formal document that confirms your property's elevation in relation to the flood zone and the estimated height that flood waters could reach in case of a major storm. This document is used by insurance providers to solidify what the annual premiums are for flood insurance. If you don't have an elevation certificate, or if the sellers don't have one, as a buyer, you will need to order and pay for an elevation certificate, which is conducted by a surveyor and typically costs around $500. So please note that in your purchase expenses if you're looking at properties in a flood zone. All right, the second major consideration when identifying potential vacation rentals that you want to purchase is determining if the property is located in a COBRA zone. We're not talking about the snake here, we're talking about a law. The COBRA acronym stands for Coastal Barrier Resources Act. This was a law passed in the early 80s, which identified coastal areas that were then undeveloped in an effort to restrict the development of some of these biologically rich coastal areas along the Atlantic coast. This law prohibited any federal grants or federal insurance for properties in this coastal area. And it's important to note, North Topsail Beach, 56% of North Topsail Beach is located in this COBRA zone. If a property is located in the COBRA zone, then it does not qualify for any federally backed flood insurance, which means if you have financing or a loan on the property, or you just want flood insurance, you're gonna need to use private flood insurance, which is generally far more expensive than federally backed flood insurance. So stay tuned and I will show you how to see if your property or a property you're interested in is located in the COBRA zone. Okay, there are a couple ways to see if the property is located in the COBRA zone. The quickest method is to go to the town of North Topsail Beach's website. Again, none of Surf City or Topsail Beach is located in the COBRA zone, which is nice. But if the property is located in North Topsail Beach, then there's 56% chance it's located in the COBRA zone. So go to their main website, northtopsailbeachnc.gov, go to community, under residents, click on Coastal Barrier Resources Act, and it will take you to a website. Scroll down to the bottom, there's a bit of history here, some information about efforts that North Topsail Beach has done to try and remove some of the land from the COBRA zone, because again, they're not allowed to get any federal grants for properties located in the COBRA zone. So when it comes to beach renourishment projects, other thing the town is doing, they're not able to maximize some of the federally backed funding that is available to other coastal areas not in the COBRA zone. All right, so if you scroll to the bottom of this article, you can see, is your property in a COBRA zone? Click on this map, it opens up a new tab, and again, this is kind of like the quick scan, and I'll show you a more in-depth way to look at it too. But there's a map, again, you can move around. There's all of North Topsail Beach. Down to the bottom, you can see most of the southern part of North Topsail Beach is not located in the COBRA zone. And then it starts right here, just north of Sea Oaks Court, and then continues up all the way to the bridge. The red outline is the COBRA zone. North, all the way up here. There's the reason these locations were not included, Tradeswinds Drive, Marina Way, some of New River Inlet Road, is because this area was already developed. So the government was not going to include that already developed area. And then all the way at the north part of the island, which is a little counterintuitive, because if you're familiar with this island, you know the north part experiences more erosion than the southern part, and the beaches are a little tighter up here. But actually the north end of this island is not located in the COBRA zone. It cuts off right here at Seagull Lane. So this is a quick way to check, but again, you can't like put in a property address here. To do that, you would go, or to look specifically for a property, you would go to Google, type in Onslow County GIS, click on the GIS map, enter site, zoom on North Topsail Beach. This is a public website. Anyone can go on this website and look at, property data. I will always go under the map layers and deselect some of the stuff that kind of clogs it up, like city limits. And then if you zoom in here and you under COBRA layer, you can see, if you check this box, COBRA prohibitions, this is specifically like another overlay that pops up that shows properties that are in the COBRA zone. So you can zoom in. I mean, you can type in an address and it will highlight it and show you. It's not a very fun map to look at because it's all these lines, but you can see the excluded area up here by Tradewinds Drive, and then where the COBRA zone cuts off up here on New River Inlet Road right before it turns into a Seagull Lane. So if you have any questions about this, your agent should be knowledgeable about this if you're purchasing a property on Topsail Island, and be able to walk you through this process as well. The third consideration we're going to talk about today is whether or not short-term rentals are allowed in the subdivision neighborhood condo complex. So not every neighborhood and location on Topsail Island allows short-term rentals. Two examples of neighborhoods or communities that do not is the St. Moritz condo complex in North Topsail Beach, and the neighborhood of Shays Landing, which is just a mile or so south of the Surf City Bridge. It's very important to confirm whether the neighborhood allows short-term rentals or not. Most of the island does, which is great for investors and property owners who want to make a little extra money when they're not using it, but that is not the case with every community. So make sure you and your agent are digging into that to validate that short-term rentals are indeed allowed in that community. If you have any further questions about vacation rentals on Topsail Island, please reach out to us, go to our website, message us on social media, and please follow us to stay in tune with future updates and more information about this area.